Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and a lot of times I like to do small pressing right beside my sewing machine, or I like to have a pressing surface that I can travel with, regardless if I'm going on a sewing retreat or just need it somewhere else. I have a great project that you're going to be able to make a two-sided pressing mat. No special tools required, and you won't even need a staple gun. You will need a piece of wood, some batting, a little bit of glue, and maybe some two-sided tape, and you're going to be able to get this done and personalize it when it's all done. For the pressing mat, we're going to start with just a plain piece of plywood. This particular one is a 1/2 inch and it's 12 by 12 inch square. We're going to cover both sides so we can press from both sides. Some aluminum foil, some white glue, batting, and the cover. And for the cover, I have a leftover piece of sports weight cotton. It has a little bit of a stretch to it, but not much. It's a lot heavier than a quilting cotton, so it's going to hold up a lot better. The batting is not really important at this point as to what batting you're going to use, so this is a great time to use up leftover batting. However, all of it must be pressed. Take it to the iron and put piece of fabric underneath and put a fabric on top and press it on the highest setting that the iron can do and do a lot of steam. Whatever that does is what you're going to want it to do now versus having it do it after it's in the pressing surface. For example, this was nice and puffy, and when it was pressed, it is not so thick now. And this would have been deceiving, so now I know exactly what I'm going to be dealing with after. So press all of the batting really well and then cut it out to the size of the plywood. The next thing we're going to do is cover this piece of wood with the aluminum foil. That's going to have the heat stay to the top surface and not penetrate into the wood, so the wood won't warp. This is just regular household aluminum foil. And I'm going to do all sides. Just put some white glue on the wood surface, going right around the edges. And you don't need a lot because this is just going to hold it on so that as we're working, it's just not shifting. The aluminum foil has a shiny side and a flat side. You want the flat side going down, the shiny side coming up. My foil's size that I need on the edge, so I'm good with that. Make sure that it's not very wrinkled. It'll just make it easier. Just spread it out. Flip it over. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the sides and just have the foil coming over just a little bit along the edge. Glue is just enough that you want to hold it on. The next thing I'm going to do is put another piece of aluminum foil on, and I'm going to have it wrapped to the edge. And in this case, I'm going to be able to cover this side. It's not important that you cover the sides, you just need the main surface covered. But since I'm able to, I'm going to. Now the glue is not really going to stick onto that aluminum, but it'll just hold it temporarily enough until we get all of the layers together. Put the next side down, and I'm smoothing that glue out, and that way I don't have any bumps of glue. Flip it over, put a little bit of glue, and bring it over to the right side. That way all of the surfaces are covered. Now we can layer the batting on each side. Important that it's pressed well first, because as you're using this surface, you are pressing that batting, and you're going to compress it and squish it down and shrink it, so it's good to have it done first. Around the outside, place a two-sided tape. Just a thin one. It's going to hold some layers on, and peel that top piece off. Place the first sheet of batting right over top and press it down. The next row we're going to add a bead of glue all the way around the outside. This is just so I don't have to do any hand stitching, and it's just going to help hold those layers together for me. Just going to keep building until I get the thickness that I want. To help this dry a lot quicker, I'm going to take it to the iron. So I'm going to put a pressing sheet over top of it, and I'm going to push that iron down and press. I don't need steam, I just want to dry that glue. Once the pressing is done, make sure you don't have any glue on your surface and turn it over. We're going to repeat for the other side. The white glue is going to hold those batting pieces together. In the inside I have that wood covered with the aluminum and the batting on both sides. We now need to make a cover for this, and your cover might be a different size. We have a really easy way of doing it. Just take a tape measure underneath, make sure it's flat, and I'm going to put the tape measures together in the center. And in this case, I have 25.5 inches. And I'm not squishing this. I'm going to need 2 seam allowances. My seam allowances are going to be 1/4 inch. So I know I'm going to need a 26 piece all the way around. I can divide that number in half, and that's the size I'm going to want to cut. And without doing any math, I'm going to take the end of my tape measure, put it at the 26-inch mark, fold that tape measure in half, and that's going to give me the measurement I need. So I'm going to need 13 inches. I have 2 selvage ends, and I'm going to use those ends to my advantage. I will need to do a little bit of hand sewing to close off the edge. So I'm going to leave that little extra and do a 13-inch square plus this little extra. I have that 13-inch mark with a little bit of hangover. By using that selvage, it's going to be nice and strong. Do a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance on the 3 edges and do a double row of stitching, because this is going to be pulled really tight. I have the opening where the selvage is. Now I want to box these 2 little corners. Take your fabric and pull them apart so the 2 seams are going to match up. The piece along this edge, I want to be the thickness of this wood, plus just a little extra. The thickness of that wood is a 1/2 inch, so I want a 1/2 inch mark here. You can do it with any ruler or any tape measurement. I'm just going to slide it down until I get to a 1/2 inch, or close to. You want the 1/2 inch along this edge. It has nothing to do with that point. I'm going to do just a little bit more than a 1/2 inch. Draw a line, and that line is my stitching line. And stitch back and forth 2 or 3 times. And then you can trim off that little corner. The pressing board is going to fit inside, but we're going to put it inside and turn the bag right side out all at the same time. Poke in your 2 corners. Make a little bowl or a little trough. The seams are here, and we're going to put the end right in that trough. Take a little pulling and tugging because we want it nice and tight. Check from both sides and make sure the corner of that wood is right in the corner of that fabric. You just hold that edge and pull. You know it's going to be right in that edge. Make sure all your batting is nice and straight. This is the seam allowance on the outside, and little by little I'm going to be able to pull this seam and have the fabric work down over top of this board every couple inches. Just make sure you're nice and straight on both sides, and then you're just going to continue to pull this down and have that board push against my body as I pull this little cover down, turning it over, making sure it's straight. A couple of inches at a time. You can also use the surface and just pull those edges down. What will happen is the board is going to push this case out. So the good side is now coming out. Continue pulling that cover down. So you have nice finished edges all the way around. 2 box corners. Really push that cover in there and pull up good and strong so it's as tight as you can get. And having that selvage there gave me a good strong surface to pull and work with. I'm going to have to close this up. I want to maintain that nice square corner. So I'm going to fold this in just like I would be wrapping a gift. I'm going to put my two sides in. The one piece is going to come over. As I'm tucking this over, I don't want to have any ridge along this area. If you do have two-sided tape, it can come to your advantage. I'm going to put a little bit in the corners, and on that corner where that two-sided tape is, I'm going to be able to take that seam and line it right up in that center and push it down. I'm going to do that to both sides. Now I can put a piece of tape along that edge and pull that first side over nice and tight. I want to try to get this as tight as possible. The tape is not going to be permanent, but it's going to be just enough to help me hold the fabric until I'm ready. I can trim off any little extra. Now I can take this top piece, fold it so I have a seam allowance, and I'm going to just put some pins to hold that down. And the seam should be somewhere between the center or along the edge. By keeping it within this small distance, you're not going to have any ridges or any bumps along the outside. Use a strong thread or a double thread and stitch this closed all the way down. So here's that tight row of stitching to hold it all together. The corners are poked in so we have a nice flat corner. By using the white glue to hold that batting together, just makes it easier to put this cover on without it shifting as much. You don't want to use something like a hot glue gun because then it's going to leave bumps. And we want this as smooth as possible. Now we can press from both sides. And an additional thing you can do is sign one of the corners with a permanent ink that's made for fabric, and then iron that and heat set it. We now have a two-sided portable pressing mat that we didn't need a staple gun for. And the signature is just a nice touch. I do hope you give it a try. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.